Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Celia Fenn here in Cape Town, and this is going to be the first in a series of videos that I will be doing about conversations with wonderful people, friends, sisters and brothers, about topics that are of interest to us at this time. So my first guest is going to be Baiba Kranate, who is in Riga in Latvia. And just for those of you who might have problems with the geography, Latvia is in, say, Northern Europe. It's on the Baltic Sea. And it's a really beautiful country. I have been there and I so enjoy being with Latvians. So welcome, Baiba. And would you like to say something?
Yeah, hello, dear Celia. I'm so happy to see you. To happy say to Cape Town. You have winter there. We have summer. And hello, everyone. I'm in Riga, and I have been practicing those things we will be discussing, like maybe 20 or more years. But those crucial years for me, like 2010, 2011, and a bit before, when I started to walk more part of what we would call New Earth, the crucial things for me were when I met Celia Fenn, because you, Celia, you helped me to understand what are those dimensions, what they really mean practically way, and how that new earth and new energies, how we humans can feel it and live with it. And I was so blessed and privileged to meet you here 3 times, I counted, and also when we met at my studio, that was great.
We did some lovely work in the forests in Latvia, because it's like a fairyland in those forests, as I remember.
And I'm very close to forests, and maybe I will say those other people who see me here first with Celia, why I'm so privileged, why I'm so happy to talk with you, because kind of I always, my past would be say, and also moment now, I'm kind of known person in Latvia, and because of my work on TV and media and theater, I'm educated as an actress in St. Petersburg in Russia, and I always felt myself as a bridge between different cultures. And so I would be happy that it's, through myself I can reach more people here in Latvia, and to bring this our conversation. Of course, through you, it goes to all planets, English-speaking and Russian-speaking, and many.
We hope so. Lots of people will watch these videos.
And here, I think my Latvian travel mates, as I call on New Earth part, they will be just as well as privileged as me.
Yes, I think when I mentioned where Latvia was, is because it's a very small country, and some people don't even know where it is. But it's amazing, isn't it, that the message of the new earth and ascension and spiritual expansion of consciousness is present there in Latvia and in that area, because that was when I was privileged to actually work in Latvia. I think it was about just before 2012, that period. That so many people were aware of what was going on.
Yes, and I remember there were your workshops and in the presence, but there were also some, what we would call it, additional ceremonies you did in forests. And and another great thing was, for me, has changed my life forever since then, that somehow happened that on 2012 Galactic New Year we celebrated at my humble studio. Yes, we danced and
I remember that.
Yes.
And I also remember that year I was doing a lot of work in the forests, and I went to Finland and Norway, and it was just an amazing energy, because Spirit had asked me to go into the forest and to work with what was called the spirit of the forest, because it was necessary that the new earth include the elementals, the fairies and the elves, and I love those elves in Latvia, and the spirits of the trees. And I remember doing some wonderful ceremonies in Latvia, with the tree energies and with the people in Latvia. It was wonderful.
That was the first thing. Okay, there were so many things which in very practically and more like the way I could understand changed my already before my previous spiritual, or what's to say, path of ascension. we are brave to say that, but that symbol and very, very same time I could feel this image of forest, and the idea of forest really helped me, because I've been always very close to forest. This is those ways where actually I could understand that there I got those what could be called the downloads, or my greatest meditation places for meditation always been in forest. And when you said that explaining which are about dimensions, fourth, fifth, and this, and correct me, please, if I'm not right. Yes, I understand. But to enter to fifth dimension and higher is you go to forest, and that was so it clicked. It's for me was
Well, at that time it was very difficult in the city, like in Riga or Jemena. You needed to be connecting with nature, and that's a very important part of the fifth dimension and accessing higher dimensions, that you have this connection with the natural world and with the tree spirits and with the forests. With all the work I did with the forests, also in Germany, I became very aware of two things. The one is that the forests are connected to the galaxy, to the galactic center, through, as their branches and their leaves go up to the heavens, they are connecting. Like we have our crown chakras, they do as well. But they're also rooted in the earth. So they're rooted into the earth and connected to the galactic center. So that makes a forest not simply a place where lots of trees grow. It's a place where we can connect to our roots and also connect to the galaxy. And forests are communities. They are, you get the elder trees, and you get the mature trees, you get the teenage trees and the baby trees. And they all carry their own kinds of wisdom, and they connect with each other. Even science has shown that trees connect with each other. So when we go into that environment, we're immediately raised in our frequency. Whereas if we stay in a city, it's very hard to reach that frequency, because everything around you is concrete and steel and traffic and lower frequencies. So yes, a forest, a natural setting, is a gateway into higher consciousness and will help us in our ascension. And you mentioned ascension as though it was something we had to be, can't say that word. But I think more and more people are realizing that ascension is simply what we call the evolution of consciousness and raising consciousness. Because there's a kind of journey that people go through. They kind of, first of all, they awaken. And I'm sure you remember that part of your life where you woke up and suddenly realized that things were not what you thought they were. And you start to discover that there's another level of reality. So that's the first step. Then the second step is when you start expanding your consciousness. You start reading everything you can find. You're looking for more information. You want to know what is this all about, and that's when your consciousness is expanding. And then you reach the level where you suddenly are aware that, yes, you're in a multi-dimensional reality, which means you can move between these different dimensions. And that the higher your consciousness goes, the more refined it is, the more peaceful it is, and the more creative you can be. And then at that point, you're ready for the new earth, which is simply when you are able to ascend into this higher consciousness, you perceive everything completely differently. And the new earth is a perceptual reality in which we perceive ourselves, our connection with God, with the divine. We perceive the environment. We perceive everything as part of the one, the law of one. So that it's completely different to the lower, like the third dimension where we came from, where everything is seen to be separate. You know, I'm me and you, and, you know, there's conflict and whatever. But in the new earth, that perception is completely different, because we see ourselves as all one, and therefore having more in common than we have as differences, and that we can always find solutions and ways of working through our problems. So that is your first step into the new earth reality, which we did actually last year at this time, which is a Lionsgate. And now we're going to be doing it again. We're going the second cycle in August. So it's a very exciting time, as you said.
Yeah, I can feel that. I could share you my feelings about multidimensionality, because before I was thinking how about our meeting here and this, and I thought, but that's maybe for those who, because I still receive questions, what is this new earth? What is this new earth? And probably for you who are already more than 20 years on the path on this, and even more those new awakened waves, they ask these questions and we are challenged to explain them, or even maybe to show. And could it be, maybe this is a good example, our conversation, what this multidimensionality is, because I was thinking, okay, this is personally for me, for my path is very important meeting, so I can bring through myself out to Latvia. I could explain to my students several this and you for, and somehow we come together, and there is no just one, how to say, goal, but many. Yes.
Well, you know, in the third dimension, we were very limited, and we then passed into the fifth dimension. Now, some people say, what happened to the fourth dimension? Well, the third dimension is space and, you know, backwards, forwards, up and down. And the fourth dimension is time. And time and space are the fabric of material reality. So in the third and fourth dimension, we were limited by what we could perceive in that world. And now we've moved into the fifth dimension. We're still working with the fourth dimension, but now we're working with time and the oneness, because the fifth dimension is your understanding of the law of one, or that all things are one and we're all part of the divine energy. So we have within ourselves the divine essence, we are souls, and as we are working with that, we're learning to embody our soul more and more as we move into this fifth dimensional reality. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone is in the fifth dimension, because the third dimension no longer exists. It's fallen away at the end of 2012. So people say to me, but the new earth, you know, where's this new earth then? Because it all looks pretty much the same. But what it is we have entered into what I call an alternate reality, and then we have the new earth. So those of us who are ascending and expanding are headed for the level of perception and understanding that is called the new earth. Those who don't want to go there, and look, there are many who don't, they have no interest in the new earth or connecting with nature. They're simply interested in their day-to-day lives, their technology, their iPhones, whatever, you know. For those people, there's this alternate reality where they can continue with their lives and finish their lives out. But the rest of us are moving through into multidimensionality. And after the fifth dimension, you get the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, whatever. You go up. In our present reality, we go as far as the ninth dimension, which is a person who has full galactic awareness and is able to function from that master consciousness. Now, I think of people like the Buddha or Yeshua. Those were beings, Mary Magdalene, bring in a woman. Those were beings who had achieved ninth dimensional consciousness and were able to work with all those different levels. So I think eventually all of us who are on the new earth path will have complete multidimensionality. And I know there are people who claim to go higher. They speak about having God consciousness and creating. So maybe there's that level where we understand ourselves to be a part of God, and that we can create and manifest whatever we want and need. So the difference between an old consciousness where you suffer from fear and anxiety and lack because you feel like I don't have anything and what happens if it all gets taken away, to a multidimensional consciousness where you understand that you are a part of God and you can create whatever you need through manifestation, through intention, and you live your life without fear, without anxiety, because you know that you will be provided for. Your soul will take care of you, your higher self will take care of you, and you'll have everything that you need. So for most people, maybe that sounds familiar or maybe it sounds strange, but that is what the new earth is about, basically, and multidimensionality. Feeling safe, feeling peaceful, and creating whatever you want in your reality.
Thank you. Can I touch a little bit this point of God consciousness, goddesses, and would by sharing my own personal experience many years ago. Let's say, okay, I already mentioned that I've been very close to forest, and I felt within myself this, let's say, green Tara, yes, coming from Tibetan Indian deity. Yes, and also there was some at the same time that was maybe 10 years ago, and of course, as many before, I always wanted that comes some guru and gives me those, those names like Mahadev and so on, like these Sanskrit names. Now I'm just Baiba of my own. So, and then one moment, and even someone, Tantra master, appeared who said that I'm, I think, one of those fearful aspects of goddesses, and he gave me one. And then I remember that I walked through forests and I felt I'm Kali, I'm green Tara, I'm white Tara, I'm everyone.
Well, maybe you are.
Yes. How would you comment that? But those several aspects.
I think when I said maybe we are, I think we understand on the multidimensional level that we're all connected and we're all one. So in that oneness, you can be an aspect of Tara or an aspect of some goddess or whatever. You can be with them, you can embody them, you can feel that energy flowing through you. So, it's different to someone who's a bit kind of on a power trip and says, well, I'm the goddess, It's not in that way. It's in the way that as a multidimensional being, you can take on those energies and channel those energies almost, as it were, because your crown chakra is open, your soul star chakra is open, and you have access to those higher aspects of who you are. So, so if you're walking in the forest in Latvia, like you said, you would suddenly be open to the energies around you that would present themselves in what we'd call an archetypal form as a goddess. You might even see or feel that powerful energy in you and feel yourself to be the goddess incarnate, which in fact you are, because you are there holding that energy in that space at that time and becoming the goddess of nature, or whatever goddess you're feeling, Tara, Kuan Yin, whatever.
But all of them, yes, sometimes Kuan Yin.
That particular level is what I call the 6th to 7th dimension, because the 6th dimension is the creative imagination. It's where we dream and the dreams become real. And in the 7th dimension is where we connect with true mastery on the earth level. So as a master, we can call on the ascended masters, we can call on the goddesses and all those who have walked on the earth with this understanding of the fact that they are embodying or channeling different aspects of the divine consciousness. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, makes sense. On your recent channeling about Lionsgate, this is 2019, it's mentioned embodying of the soul this time. Yes, so would it be like, okay, the one thing is it's written, and one thing is I'm receiving. So then I'm receiving that all these different parts of me, different aspects, those goddesses and fairies, that would mean that also that embodying the soul, yes? Or this is something different?
Not the way I understand it. I think your soul is your essence. It's the essence of who you are, and it is connected to the goddesses and the fairies and the masters and the angels and all those things. But it remains essentially your essence when you embody it. Okay, so that is what the miracle of life on earth is about. We embody for a lifetime a particular essence, which has had many other lifetimes, and maybe even some lifetimes that are happening at the same time. So there's all this experience that's happening, but it all goes back to the essence of the soul, which moves into the monad, which is the oversoul. So life above us on different dimensions looks quite different to this body that we have. But what we're discovering with our physical bodies as we move deeper into embodiment is the fun we can have when we do bring through these aspects and say, okay, I'm Celia Fenn, but I'm walking in the forest, and today I'm going to be Green Tara, And you can experience that and feel those energies, or any other being that you wish to embody or to connect with or to channel by bringing that through your soul, through the soul's essence. So I think there'll always be, like, I'm not going to say separate, but a different part of your essence that can blend and change and connect with other essences while still being who you are. And as I said, that's the miraculous thing about ascension and transformation. You suddenly become aware that we're not just one person, in this body, and we have to go to school and then go to university and then have a job. And, there's so many other adventures of the soul and spirit that we can have that are on other dimensions. Of course, we do always need to ground this into a solid life. We need to have a home to live in and a bed to sleep in and food to eat. So we can't spend all our time out in the galaxy. We have to take care of the physical needs. But if we're doing this with discernment and with awareness, then we will have that grounding in the earth to allow us to experience different aspects of our soul and our essence and who we are.
This is a great point, because I've been talking with my, as I call, travel mates on a path, and we somehow realized that this is great two things. It's also like polarities. So we are humans, and we are those divine beings, multidimensional, and being just human, it's just impossible here without this aspect. And also being just like this, wow, I'm divine, I'm goddess, God, and multi-dimensional being, without this human thing, this is
without the grounding. It just sounds nonsensical. If you start saying, well, I'm Jesus, or I'm Mary Magdalene, or yes, you are, but you're also a human grounded on the earth, and you have to live a human life. And I think we're going to understand in the future that, never mind Jesus and Mary Magdalene, being who you are, being Baiba, is much more fun and much more adventurous, because here we are, we're in this huge transformation process. We're going through shift of the ages, we're going into the opening of the new earth. What could be more an adventure? And I think if in the future people will look at us and say, wasn't it amazing to be present at that time? So rather than trying to be someone else, rather be yourself, and talk about your experiences, talk about connecting with your soul in this particular lifetime, in this particular body, because that is where the miraculous changes are happening. And look, I know it's not easy. We're all finding the energies very difficult, because being multidimensional is not like getting in a lift and going up and down. You get the turbulence and energies coming in, and some days you feel terrible and you feel depressed and you feel all sorts of things, because you're also feeling the energies of people around you. So not easy, requires a great deal of courage and a great deal of discernment and good old-fashioned common sense often. Look after yourself, take some time out, don't burn yourself out, but learn how to work with these energies and enjoy the fact that you have a body, and this is your vehicle, your vessel for experiencing this level of reality.
Yeah, this is my main focus. Also, like if I would need to be, if I would like to describe in very short, in one sentence, what I do, because I also write, I do creative work, but since I have this long yoga background and working with body, I now work, like, let's say, like you mentioned, these divine energies to bring here to earth, like through our hands, which are expression in physical reality of our heart.
That's
and
right.
We bring them here, and with our feet we touch the sacred ground, and it works both ways.
It's important. In the book I wrote called The Diamond Codes, one of the things I pointed out to people is that yoga and dance and body movement is very important in the ascension process, because you have to ground these diamond codes. And I know you mentioned to me people saying, well, what are codes? We talk about codes and diamond codes. What are they? Codes are basically information that is encoded in light from a specific source. So the diamond codes come from galactic center. They come down and are received in our light bodies and in our bodies, carrying whatever information or instructions come from the galactic heart, galactic center, through the solar council, solar center, to us. And so when we embody and integrate a light code, we are simply taking in the latest set of operating instructions, if you want to call it that way, for the human on the earth that is coming from the galactic center. So the codes are helping us to evolve and to transform, because each set of instructions will take us further and further in this evolutionary process. Now, it's interesting that not everybody, everybody receives the codes, but not everybody is able to work with them, because until you are awakened and start these processes in your physical body and your DNA starts to activate, you cannot receive the codes and receive the instructions. And that's why so many people, when they go into their ascension process, suddenly their body goes crazy and they get sick and whatever, because suddenly the DNA is awakened and it's starting to receive instructions, more instructions and more instructions, and it's having to rebalance itself. But the people who are not being awakened with these instructions are just carrying on with life as normal, as normal as it can be, because more and more they're discovering that it's not the same as it used to be. They can't understand why is life so different. But those of us who are working with the awakened DNA and understand this process are understanding that our bodies are changing as the information changes us on all these different levels.
Yeah. For myself, I realized that on that point, those, let's say, old techniques, yoga and other energy work through body, they are very, on that point, we have very good background, like for ourselves given, but we on which we can, using them, we can go further, and that's, if you understand what I mean, there is this great, when we can blend on that level, not staying only on them, but go with that knowledge we have from ancient ancient golden ancient
well,
times.
the thing is that yoga techniques were designed to help us to get to enlightenment.
Yeah,
I think it's just part of the path to full ascension. It's waking up. So doing yoga will prepare you for the ascension process, because you'll clear your chakras, your meridians will start running correctly, and the body will feel the flows of energy, much more so than someone who's just sitting behind a computer all day or not moving. So moving your body, even dance, music, singing, whatever, anything that flows energy and vibrates through your cells. Sound is also good. If you think of crystal bowls or sound therapies, the vibrations move through the soul, through the body, into the cells. So even the cells are vibrating. So that is going to wake your cells up and say, wait a minute, there's something going on out there that you need to know about. So all these techniques that people work with are all really good, not as ends in themselves, but as a part of the pathway to higher consciousness.
Yeah, and I could share my own experience because I think this is it could be helpful, useful for other. I was on it. I always been kind of rebellious, and actually, when I read your book, I read this in Russian, so then correct this English name for it.
Indigo. About
Indigo, yes. I understood that I'm one of those indigos, but already when I was 40 and more.
Yeah, the indigos are getting old, Baiba.
I understood where those sadnesses and depressions and wanting to. I know how you can lie, how you can do. So I healed myself. I benefited from yoga a lot, but then one moment I started, this doesn't work for me. This also doesn't work. And then someone introduced me with those times in my area, and all this ex-Soviet area were very popular and still is Krayan teachings. And I said, no, I have my Sanskrit books and those canons, sacred texts, and I will first study them and then afterwards. But then one time, second time, and then I started to read, started to more, because okay, it fits, it's yes, I could agree, this is and now I'm
Yeah, one of the things I found, which is why I very rarely or try not to ever criticize somebody else's path, because I found that eventually all paths lead to the same destination. They're all ways of getting to higher consciousness, if you want to call it ascension or enlightenment or whatever. But everyone's going on a way that works for them, and then we're all at different parts or spaces in the journey. So some of us might be way ahead, some of us might be way behind. So it's not to be critical of those that are still coming up the pathway because you're way ahead and you understand things differently. It's just to allow people to be where they are in their journey and to be accepting of that. Because I think one of the hallmarks of higher consciousness is that you're not judgmental, and that you're accepting of where people are in their lives and what's in their hearts, and know that on the soul level, everyone's striving, moving forward the best they can. It's just that in this density that we're in, it's sometimes very difficult because people become aggressive and conflictual, and all those energies come out. But we don't need to go there. If we're working with it as an embodied soul, we understand we're in peace, we're in joy, and we're in love, because we know that this is what the soul expresses. And if we feel something that causes aggression or anger in us, we're just simply triggering shadow energies, if you want to call it that, and that we need to deal with our own feelings and not rather project blame on other people and say it's your fault or you did this or that, but rather take responsibility for what we're feeling, and then just return ourselves to that calm, peaceful center, which is what you get when you reach higher consciousness, because you understand that is the way in which higher consciousness manifests, is through extreme peacefulness and harmony and beauty and love and all those positive things that we all try to get to in our journey. So it really does change us. We become quite different. And I found that the moment I start being critical or whatever, I suddenly I'm aware frequency is dropping, and I say, wait a minute, it doesn't feel good. I don't feel like I'm myself. And get out of that and get back into that place where you understand the oneness, that we're all on the same journey, no matter who we are on the earth.
Yeah, I noticed also for myself this moment because as I mentioned, I'm rebellious and critical, I'm very strict and Aries and April 1st. And then one moment I noticed, I see this angle of this situation and another, and all they are correct. And then I understood for myself that actually this is, it means that we are becoming multi-dimensional, because we see that all truths are truths.
And it's also, once you've had that realization, it also means that you become more aware of your boundaries and what works for you and what doesn't. So instead of getting into a huge argument with someone, you just simply say, no, this is not working for me. I need to be somewhere else. Withdraw, So it's quite different, because we're trusting that our instinctual responses and our feelings in our body, again, because our body is telling us. Your mind might not be telling you, but your body will tell you. If you're tense, if you're not feeling good, then you know that you need to move yourself into a different space or different place in order to bring yourself back to that higher consciousness, which will place you in the new earth. Because when you're in higher consciousness and you're perceiving from yourself that everything around you is peaceful and calm and beautiful, then you're in that new earth consciousness. Yeah. But the moment you drop, then all of a sudden everything becomes conflictual and difficult and whatever. And I always say to my classes, we'd all like to be in new earth consciousness all the time, but we live in cities and we have to go to work and we have to deal with our families and whatever. So we're constantly dropping. The moment you walk outside the door, you're bombarded by everybody else's consciousness. Mm-hmm. So you have to deal with this. So you have to learn how to identify what level of consciousness you're carrying in your body. And not to, I find this very difficult with me when you're in a shopping center or when somebody's angry around you and you pick it up inside you. The moment I start feeling frustrated and angry and whatever, I know I'm picking up other people's things. So we have to watch all the time that we're in our own heart, in our own being, and that we keep our energy and our consciousness at a very high level. And that's important for distinguishing where we are and what we're experiencing. So instead of saying, I'm feeling terrible, let me find the cause. I know I'm feeling terrible because I've dropped my frequency. And the moment I raise it to a higher level, I'm going to feel much better, because then I'm connecting more with my soul, or connecting more with divine energy, and I'm finding the peace in myself.
Maybe that could be good answer to one question someone lately asked me. Actually, the person on a path and also on what we would call on new earth path, she asked, actually she mentioned that now she understands, before she couldn't, how to practice being new earth. And I was like, oops. Because for us who are doing it for many years and you are decades, like maybe it's also a strange question and so obvious, but people have them. So then it's...
I have been teaching this in the webinar series that I do. The last two we did. We focused very much on how to recognize where you are in terms of frequencies and dimensions, and how to live in a way that's positive. And also Archangel Michael said how to live as if you are in the new earth already. Don't wait for it to happen, live as if. And that includes making your environment reflect like your beautiful background does, that you're in a place of serenity and beauty and calm, and that you're interacting with people from your new earth self rather than from the old energy. So if you keep doing this, if you keep practicing, as the word you say, it will become natural to you after a while. And, it'll be the way you are, because it is the way you are when you're not pulled down into the lower frequencies.
And for me, all this daily life, I also sometimes dropping and oftentimes dropping my frequencies. And like yesterday, I had very not nice, not like very three-dimensional thing with my bicycle and all these things.
So that.
But this is like, this is how I learn, how I practice, how I understand by polarities.
Well, for me, there would be two things. The first would be to understand, why did that guy give you such bad service? And you don't have to understand, but you can perceive that maybe, with all the chaos going on around us, no one can focus anymore. It's very difficult to get things done the way you would like to, because everything's moving so fast and everyone's trying to make enough money to survive, all those kinds of things. So that would be the important thing. And then, also your reaction is up to you. You can either go crazy and make a big thing of it, or just decide, okay, fine, this is what happened, move on, get someone else to fix it. Yes, it's going to cost you money, but, that's the way things are. And I found that if you take the first route and you decide to make a big issue and be aggressive and whatever, it's very taxing on you because you're caught in that negative energy. And it's much better to just say, okay, take a loss and move on. So you're not attached to the outcome of a conflict, which you feel you should be winning, and probably the other guy feels he should be winning too, because that lower frequency, the old energies are very conflictual. So the moment you can move yourself out of conflict and into a place where you're not in conflict, where it doesn't matter. And you think about it, you were annoyed because it cost you money, but really it doesn't matter.
No, but I learned from this latest experience was I noticed I'm big analyzer, and I will make this lemonade out from those lemons. It's why I learned that.
Yeah.
And I understood because I before that not nice event felt not so anxious like never before lately, and I understood, but that was already afterwards. That was my body's signal. Yes. And now I also like I have this workbook, Archangel Michael keys, and I like this, and I from there I remember that Archangel Michael says, you mentioned then that you will be able to choose emotions like colors, and I think
absolutely. It is your choice. You can choose to be angry and aggressive because that's what most people do, or you can choose something else, and most people have difficulty choosing the non-aggressive path because they feel like, oh, I gave up, or I was weak, or whatever. So there is a moment where you have to have boundaries and say, no, I'm not going to accept that. But then you can also handle it in a way such that you don't create conflict, You point out to the person that the workmanship was not good enough, but you don't have to go into a huge fight about it, because I found in those situations, you point out to someone there's a problem, they immediately go into aggression because they feel threatened and they think, blah, blah. So at that point, you can choose not to be aggressive and simply to be calm and to do whatever you need to do. So it's learning a whole new set of responses and ways of dealing with life that are probably quite different to what we grew up with and what we learned in our society.
Yeah.
And that is really what it means to be in the new earth and to live in the new earth way. And what we see happening in the future is that more and more people are going to be taking on higher consciousness, because at the moment there's this huge awakening going on. And these are people who have just woken up, and they're going to go through their discovery phase where they look and they learn and they see, and then they'll move into the expansion, and then they'll move into the multidimensional and find that peace in their heart and this new way of living. So every time there's a wave of expansion, like there was one in 2001 when I did my group awakening thing. It was one in 2008 and 2009, and now there's a big one happening now. Look, people have been awakening in between, but these are like waves of awakening, where so many people are just waking up and getting into the recognition that things are changing. And so more and more people doing this, you're going to have more and more people embodying their souls and living in the new earth consciousness. So imagine what kind of world that will make when we understand that there are two realities we can choose between. Probably more realities, but one is the new earth and there's the ultimate earth, and we can choose. And or we can do what I call bungee jumping between them. You can go back for a visit and come out. You do it with ease. It's like fun. It's not like, oh God, now I've got to go back to the lower levels. This is going to be terrible. It's like, okay, I'm going for a visit to the lower levels, but I'll be very careful and I'll watch myself, and then I'll come back home. So learning how to master the energies, how to be in these energies, and to be okay with them. Not easy, because we're the way showers. We're like the first people, the first, what can I call us, light workers, ascension workers. Forerunners, whatever. We're the first ones to do this. So it's difficult. Once the first wave has done it, then the next guys can come behind and the path is open. But the guys on the front, also pushing this new reality all the time. It's not easy. But this is what we chose to do. It's what we came for. And our souls are up to the task, and we are being assisted by angels, archangels, masters, guides, whatever. You know, they're all there working with us to assist us in this process.
Yeah, and conversations like this we have, it helps, it inspires, it uplifts, because I mean, often feel here, not of course I have many soulmates on my part here in my country and all over the world, but sometimes you're like, what is this? Because when you see the forest thing in Latvia and all these
I think, Baiba, that a lot of us feel that we are alone because there's so few people of the same consciousness quality around us. So having access to the internet and to people, like this technology we're using now is amazing, you know, that we can sit and talk to each other and we can record it and people can listen to it afterwards, so that we can feel that there are other people like us and that going through the same experiences, feeling the same things. And
when I do sometimes, because I like to work also online, I do talks, I do some videos. My previous website being called Yoga Life Art, and it's been for many years and people still know me by this name in Latvia, but then I say it's like union yoga, which is union, 21st century, by tools we have, by language we can share, by those big languages, English, Russian, who have. And so this way, this is like another level union or yoga or
of the work
our daily life.
I think so. And you know, as we were saying, we're coming to the end of our time, but as you were saying yesterday when we chatted, that there's so many people in Russia as well. You know, it's this huge country, and so many people are waking up in Russia as well. You know, in the Western world, in the USA and Europe, we tend to focus on what's going on in this space, but also in Russia, Moscow, St. Petersburg, a little bit as well. Huge awakening. I'm not saying it's happening in the countryside, although when I did seminars in Russia, I had people from Novosibirsk and Irkutsk and all sorts of other places, you know, over that way. And there are people who go and do workshops in the Urals, and so things are happening in Russia, and I think people need to know that, you know, to understand that this energy, this awakening, this higher consciousness that we talk about, not only happening in the West, it's also in the Russia and moving towards the East as well. So I'm hoping that that people in Latvia, hello Latvia, miss you so much, and also Estonia and Lithuania, the 3 Baltic countries, and also in Russia will more and more become part of our global family, that we can all come together. So thank you so much, Baiba, for being my guest and bringing up things to talk about. And
bring this conversation to our forests today. I go later to forest.
We send energy to the forest. I hope that we'll be able to talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
Else we can talk about, we can bring that up. So thank you, and bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.